Oh, what about Lorraine Warren? That's great.
Well, she had, when she did her thing, they had her own thing about the exorcism they did.
But I mean, to literally, don't worry about the camera. We'll follow you. If you want to say they were seated here, and then this happened over here, and he'll follow you. We're recording. We decided not to boom in here. We're just going to record directly off the mic, but it's very powerful. Unless you got, pretty far away from him,
So where do you want to start at? We talked about, like, with Jim in the window. We talked about Snow Angel. We talked about Lorraine Warren.
All right. Let's start with the Lorraine Warren story. Let's just start here, but be animated. You can move anywhere, and we're going to follow you.
Okay, you just go ahead and say it, and we'll talk about it.
We asked Lorraine Warren to come and do a program for us, and we had like 54 guests, and we did it between the 2 rooms. So we had a round table over here that we seated her at, and her, Tony, which Tony Spear is her son-in-law, and they sat here in this section of the
There was a round table here sitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my husband and Ron Nagy and from Lilydale and Lillian Coates, they were here, and Destiny, my little grandniece, and his daughter Amber.
But at this
they were all
table,
there. That's where they were.
I don't remember Lillian and Ron sitting at that table.
Yeah, they did. They were very, very nice, and
okay,
they
I
sat
don't
with her
remember them
because
sitting
they had talked about her book quite a bit, and he had all of her books and all of her stuff, and he was signing everything, and she was signing stuff. It was really nice.
So they're in this room, but there aren't any other people in this room?
No.
It was filled. We had people in both rooms, 54 guests here to listen to her lecture.
And there was a meal with it.
Yeah, we had a meal
And she actually sat like right over in there near that corner.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it wouldn't have been a corner, it was a round table.
So,
But anyways, over there.
She's here.
yeah, what she
The
did
place
was-
is filled with people.
Right, and I'm sitting like right here, so, and Tony was sitting over in here, I think.
Okay.
And what happened is she went ahead and she left her like cell phone, her book money for selling of her books, and her little purse, and a couple other things. And what they did was they left it sitting right here, and we went to the other room to host the videos and everything, and to do the lecture. So she decided to leave it over here while she went over there. And at the break, when people wanted to buy a book,
But in that meantime,
Yeah.
I was like one of the last people to leave the room.
Right.
I think my daughter and I were the last two, and we were both sitting at the table here.
and we use these
So
little
we were
gates
there,
like
and I
this.
stood in the doorway there most of the time.
So the
when I was
crowd's
watching.
cleared out.
Right.
Correct.
Her stuff is here.
Right, and nobody else in the room. And
Okay.
we gate it. We gate it with these little gates.
Okay.
And we make sure, we keep an eye on everybody. And so when she came back at the half to do her little selling of her books and stuff, it was gone. And so Tony, being, very cautious, and he's saying, well, where is it? It's got to be here somewhere. Would you please find your wait staff or ask somebody where it's at? And we looked all over, and we couldn't find anything. And so Tony went into that room, and then he started looking all over, thinking, well, maybe she inadvertently did take it in there with her, which she didn't. And so she meets me over here, and she goes, well, what am I going to do? I said, put your hands in the air, ask the building to give it back. She goes, what do you mean, honey? I says, put your hands in the air and ask the building
Just
to
follow
give
my
it back.
directions.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
And I
It's
says,
my building.
I said, stuff
Okay.
happens like this. And she goes, okay. And then when we looked in the other room, it was underneath the chair where she had been sitting. In the
Over
other
here?
room. Yeah. And
Can you
we
show
knew-
us that? Where that was?
we knew that nothing was over there because we'd all looked, and she was sitting right here, and we had her show was showing up here on the wall, and she was seated here, and Tony was right next to her. So the chair that she was sitting in was right there, and nobody was in here. And when they looked under it, it was right underneath the chair.
And like I said, during her lecture and everything, most of the time there was a lot of people sitting out in there because Peggy had all the chairs up in rows, and I would be standing like right here in case anybody needed anything. I could just go get it for them.
Yeah.
So there was nobody else even in those rooms because everybody was watching her
what's
lecture.
going on. So that was kind of
So
a cool
neat.
thing that happened in the building to a pretty famous person.
That's
a really
pretty neat.
pretty
And
famous
we all know that's pretty typical in hauntings where things disappear and then they reappear, not necessarily in the same spot.
So she spent the night that night upstairs on the second floor in the room in the front, and she said the snowmobilers kept her up almost all night. But when she got up the next day, her and Tony walked through the building, and she said, honey, your building's haunted, and you got to take more pictures. And she talks like that. She talks very sweet. Very sweet.
Neat.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and
that's
another time about like things disappearing, Peggy had an item in the building here, and she'd put it somewhere, and all of a sudden she could not find it, and it was like a real important piece of stuff for her, and she says, I think I might have thrown it away in the garbage. So I'm out here
Oh, that's a panic situation.
looking in
Yeah.
dumpsters.
Right,
So I'm
right.
doing dumpster diving, looking into dumpsters for this item that she had lost. And it was like, what, 2 or 3 days later, all of a sudden, and you'd looked everywhere,
Right.
and all of a sudden it was in a closet upstairs in like a puzzle box or a box of some sort,
In a
like a
very
toy
odd
box.
place.
In a very odd spot.
In a
That
spot
wouldn't-
where she
yeah.
would have never ever put it.
Right.
But there what it was. And they her and her sisters had tore the building out looking for it.
I'll
Tore
tell
it
you something that happened too. Over here we have a picture, and this is kind of really a cool thing. My husband likes to go to garage sales and auctions, and he had picked this picture up. This picture is called The Old Oaken Bucket, and it's by Jerome Thompson. And it's just a cheap, it's not a print or anything, it's just cheap,
That's
and
neat.
it's cool. It's just really a cool
Let's see
thing.
why you would be drawn to that.
I
yeah.
know, it's just a cool thing. So we've had it in the building, and we've had a lot of people say that when I had it in the bathroom because of the way that the wood is and everything, well, you wouldn't want to put that in there. You want to bring it out of there. That's a pretty famous artist. So I did. I put it out, and I put
But
it in a place.
before that, you said when it was in there,
Yeah,
that wasn't that the one when the dogs went and go in the room?
yeah. When I heard the whispering, at the same time there was a movie coming out called The Well.
The well.
Remember
Okay.
that, the ring where
Yes,
the thing comes
right,
up out
right.
of the well?
Right.
Well, when I heard the whispering that was going on in there, and I couldn't figure out what it was, I went home and got my dog. Brought my dog back, and my dog wouldn't even go in that bathroom. My dog took out of its collar, headed to the back door, would not go in.
Would not go in.
And that's when somebody that was a medium told me, well, take it out of there, there's a pretty famous artist. And it could be
And
that
it-
they just
It
don't
doesn't
feel
want to be.
right, doesn't want to be in the bathroom.
In the restroom.
But the coolest thing is, this is
Cool.
called the Old Oaken Bucket. This is out of a journal that is unknown to us. There was only one journal left for a 4-year journal when this was called the Arlington, right after Myrle sold it. Down here, somebody had signed in the 1800s as the Old Oaken Bucket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's very odd that somebody had signed
Very,
in like that.
yes. They signed in as the Old Oaken Bucket.
And that's the
Right,
name.
Yeah,
that's
the paintings
gotta be
hanging-
a painting
hanging
I
in
got
place.
at an auction, in
Wow.
2004 or
Right.
something.
That's very neat.
By
Yeah.
2005, because it was after we got the building.
Yeah.
Showing the president's signature.
Yeah, well, Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
John L. Sullivan, the bare-fisted boxer, he stayed here. Lots of famous
Lots of
people.
very famous people. And
Well, this was 500 miles from Chicago, 500 miles from New York City. And the train that stopped here would have taken anybody to those two destinations. So it was a major stop for many people. And the Mahoning Orchestra played next door at the Opera House, so they were housed here. There were,
You used to be able to stay in this hotel and then walk through a doorway to the next building, which was the Opera House.
yeah. And so the people that stayed here, I think with so many people that had stayed here, a lot of energy had been left. And that would have been during the same time frame when McKinley and Grover Cleveland were like running against each other, and they would have been going back and forth and doing the
Sure.
little stops in all the towns and the little train stops. So that was kind of another interesting thing that happened here. And we will tell you that we've had good things that have happened. My brother-in-law, who had passed away in August of 2005, his wife and his daughters and some of the kids came here, and an artist that is in the other room had taken a picture, and the picture was in the kitchen, and it was in the doorway. And she said, I was snapping these pictures, and I got this very strange face in the doorway. And when they came for a function that was here, they looked at this picture that was in the doorway, and they all said it was Jim. It was their
And that's a picture of it up on
Yeah.
the wall over there.
they all
right,
said
right.
definitely they thought that it was Jim. So, and that was an artist that was just snapping photos throughout the building. So we feel like sometimes spirit might come back in different forms and affect people. But when that happened, they had felt that he always had believed in spiritualism, and he'd always believed in that reincarnation and what could go on. And when they saw that, they said, that affirmed to them that he was here with them. So that
And
was
in
very
the
dear.
same note, that happened he died in August or
August of
September.
05.
And then that following Christmas Eve, we were over at my parents' house, and when we left there, Peggy said, well, let's go back out through Linesville and just check on the building, because we'd had like 8 inches of snow or so, and it was just a real nice evening. We pulled up right outside the kitchen door, and there's like a security light that comes on. And when we pulled up there, we noticed there was something on the steps, and when we got out of the truck, we looked over there, and there was a set of footprints that came from the main street all the way down along the side of the building, up onto the porch, and somebody had made a snow angel. But when we really looked at it, there was nowhere you could see where the person got up from the snow angel, and there was no tracks leaving it. And I even tried to backtrack it to see if somebody could have possibly
Started
stepped
there,
and would just
maybe
walk
gone
backwards.
back,
But
that
there
would be
was
very
8
unusual.
inches of snow. There was no way they could have done it without messing up the
Or
footprints.
walk
Yeah.
backwards.
Well, you would have
Right.
saw the snow track back as
Because
you
when
pulled their
Right.
feet
you
up.
walk, and especially in deep snow, when you drag your toe, it makes a mark, a direction.
Right.
So that,
So it
just
was-
some of the neat things that have happened here.
Yeah.
Very neat.
And a lot of that kind of stuff you might actually go unnoticed.
Right.
You know, these odd things, unless maybe sometimes you're looking out for them. You know.
The people that come here, they have their own stories. There's been people who have come here and told us that early in the 40s that relatives had run this place or had managed this place, and they were in their 80s now, and they'll say, well, you know, we were always told don't go up on the 3rd floor, don't go on the 2nd floor. There's ghosts in the hotel. There's something in the hotel. When we first got this back in 1993, I had gotten it in a different circumstance, and then I was working in the kitchen in the morning, and I saw a man that I thought had gone down the hallway, bypassed the bathroom, and was just standing there. And I'm looking at him, and I'm saying, "Sir, you can't be there because, you know, we have liquor and stuff back there."
Sure.
And he looks at me, and he just kind of bowed his head and acknowledged me, and he kept walking. So I went after him, and there was nobody there. The door was closed, and there was nobody there. Then in 2005, when we got it back, I was upstairs, and I was doing a bathroom, and it was about 2:30 in the afternoon, and I look over out of the bathroom, and I'm looking into the bedroom, and I see a little boy standing there. Now, I had seen other kids in town running around and everything, and some had run into the building one day playing hide and seek, and I said, you know, you can't get out, get out. But this looked like a child, and I was frozen in my feet. I couldn't even move. I thought, somebody's kid's in the building, and it's dangerous, and I tried to run after them. I couldn't, but when I did, they were totally gone.